Hi, in this clip I'm going to play through Cafe Negative, the second piece in the Grade 1 Rockschool Bass book. I'll play through it first of all, along with the backing track, and I'll then give you a few pointers and things you need to look out for when you're actually performing the piece. I'll then play it a second time with the backing track slowed down about 20%, so it's a bit easier to keep up with, and you can see a bit more clearly what's going on. Finally, I'll play through it a third time, but this time with my own volume turned right down, so you've got a visual reference of where you should be in the track, but with a slowed down, easier backing track to practice along with. Okay, so this is Cafe Negative.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
Okay, right. Let's look at the first section, the first 4 bars. Make sure you get the timing nice and tight. Just listen to the track and make sure you've got it nice and tight. But the very last note is on an offbeat, okay? So if you look at the timing of it, you've got 2 crotchets, followed by 2 quavers. 1, 2, 3, and. Then the 4 is actually a rest. So the last note comes in on the and of 4. So it's 1, 2, 3, and 4, and. Okay, so make sure you get that timing nice and tight. Now, if you look at the last bar of that line, bar 4, a lot of my students seem to get the timing wrong there. Although it's written out as crotchets, it should be 1 note on each beat. The temptation is to sort of pinch the last 2 notes together. So make sure the last bar's just straight crotchets. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, not. Don't speed up those last 2 notes. Make sure it's crotchets all the way through. Okay, let's look at the second line. Now you've got a rest on beat 2 on bar 5. So you've got the open D string, then a rest. So make sure you mute the string out. Don't let it run through. So it should sound not. Don't let that string run on. Make sure you get that rest in place. Okay, where are we going next? Okay, the last bar, bar 8, the last bar of the second line. There's a little bit of string jumping going on there, so you've got to move from the open A string to the open G string to the D string, then the A string. So there's quite a lot of string jumping going on there, so again, make sure you don't let the open strings ring on, make sure it's nice and punchy. So as you go across from the A to the G string, make sure you mute that A string out so it doesn't run, so you don't end up with the 2 ringing together. When you get down to line 3, same thing applies. When you get to bar 8, 9, 10, bar 11, where again you're jumping from the A string across to the G string, don't let both strings ring together. Make sure you mute out the open string when you no longer require that note. Okay, the 1, 2, 3, 4th line down, and first 2 bars. Again, you're starting off with an open string. It's just the open D string. But you've got 2 crotchet rests afterwards, so there's got to be a gap there. So again, make sure you don't leave that open string ringing on. So you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So make sure you get those gaps in there by stopping the strings. Okay, when it comes to the repeat, don't forget as well, it's a bit of a tricky one to read where the coda comes in. So when you're actually playing through the piece, when you get down to the da capo coda, go back to the top, and don't forget, try and actually practice jumping from the coda sign to the actual coda at the bottom, because it's, if you're trying to follow it on the page as you're reading through it, it's quite strange to kind of reposition your eye that far down the page. So actually practice playing the second bar of line 3 and then running into the first bar of the coda, so you can kind of get it in your head. So you've got, and actually practice making that jump so you can get used to making that visual jump on the page. The rest of it's all pretty straightforward. Again, usual things apply with all of the pieces in this book. Make sure you're using decent technique, okay? So make sure you're using your fingers, hopefully 2, not just 1, not your thumb, and also, although it's, the actual fingering's pretty straightforward, it's only really the 2nd and 3rd frets you're playing, so you haven't really got to use too many different fingers. But try, for instance, where you've got adjacent notes, like the first bar of line 3, try using your 2nd finger and your 1st finger to fret, so you can actually fret both notes together. So again, it's nice and punchy, rather than having to move your finger across. Try using 2 separate fingers. Other than that, pretty straightforward, so good one to do in the exam, this one. Right, okay, I'll play it a second time now with the backing track slowed down a little bit.
Caffeine negative. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
Okay, now 3rd time with my own volume turned down.
Caffeine negative. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
hopefully that's just something that helped you. If you've got any questions, then contact me through YouTube.